Hello. Today I'm here to work on a chisel plow that I have that needs a welding job done on it. I'm going to try and dismember it and take the part into a welding shop rather than have someone come here to the farm. And so I've got some tools here with me, and I'm working inside my machine shed. And what I've got is a Glencoe 9-shank disc chisel, and one of the arms that supports the wheel, or supports the plow from the wheel, has a crack, and that crack has grown bigger as I used the implement last fall. I distinctly remember when I purchased this implement that the dealer told me I'd never be able to pull it with my tractor. Apparently I not only was able to pull it, I was able to break it. So before I can use it again, I feel it's necessary to get that repaired and strengthened so that that performs properly and doesn't happen again. And also, before I get too far into this project, I should probably make a disclaimer that, should I inadvertently do something silly or perhaps that looks dangerous or something, I do not recommend that anyone try this operation at home. So all the risk is on me. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a view here of the implement that I'm working on and some of the things that I think I'll have to do to perform this operation. This is the victim of the abuse that had the broken part. It's as I said, a Glencoe 9-shank disc chisel that I purchased a few years ago. And again, I'm only a small farmer, and I don't have a lot of acres, so I usually just buy used equipment. I try to buy equipment that I can afford, but that still looks quite serviceable. And perhaps I didn't do my due diligence. This crack may have existed at the time I purchased it, and I just made it worse. I don't know. But you can see perhaps right there how that's gotten a crack, and that crack tends to open up when you're using the implement, when you lower it into the ground, and it causes this wheel to trail at an angle. And so what I hope to do, or intend to do, is to remove this part from the plow by taking out these bolts on each side and dropping that out from under the frame, and hopefully I'll be able to load that into a vehicle and take it directly to a welding shop so that the repair could be made. It'd be a little cheaper than having someone actually come to the farm to perform this operation for me. So you can see this is the front of it. It has a gang of discs on the front that are intended to kind of slice through the soil as you're plowing, helps to make a break in the soil. And then what you have are shanks in the back. And those type of shanks are actually called a 4-inch wide slash point shank, and the reason they have points at the top and the bottom is because they are reversible. Believe it or not, even though it's dirt, dirt does have a wearing effect on metal. If you use it long enough, the points will get smoother. And eventually shorter. And so at that time, you need to remove the bolts, which are hidden beneath that dirt, those circles of dirt, and then you turn it upside down and put the brand new sharper point down if you want more life out of them. And the reason they're twisted is because they give you just a little bit of action in bringing up some dirt and turning it over to give you some dirt to make a seed bed with. And then on the back I have what's called a ridge leveler. So it has some S-tines, spring shanks there they have a very small little shovel on them there, and that is intended to, these initial ones make rather large ridges, and then by having those on the back, they don't dig very deep, but they tend to level out those ridges. So I have a lot of clutter I have to move here. I have, this is what's called, referred to as a farm jack. It can lift things, it has a long range of action there. It can lift things from low to the ground all the way up high. And I've positioned that underneath the frame rail on the side here. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to lift. This has a 7,000 pound lift capacity, so I think that should be enough to lift one side of this implement up. And then once the wheel is off the ground, I'm hoping that I can take the bolts out and it'll be free. And then all I'll have to do is, I don't want to leave it on the jack, so I'll find some 2x4s or 4x4s or some pieces of wood that I'll be able to, lengths of wood that I'll be able to prop under there in a few places to secure it until I can get the part repaired and then bring it back. So I brought my mobile tool workshop with me. I keep my tool chest in the back of a mule so that I can go where I need to go and work on if the machine is in the field or whatever. And so I'm going to get started on that operation right now, and I'll keep you updated. So far so good. I have the jack under here, and it has raised the tire off the ground so that I can spin the tire freely. And I have a couple of 4x4s wedged under there. I drove under there with a hammer on some blocks that are helping assist the jack. I believe I'm just going to leave the jack in there as well. I put a safety bolt in one of the holes. I'll show you what that looks like. Took me a little bit to find a bolt to go in there. Didn't exactly find the right size. Remind me someday to show you my assortment of miscellaneous bolts, nuts, used washers, and sundry other parts. So, but anyway, I think this will be sufficient for what I need. And right now I'm on the inside of the framework. I've already loosened the nuts off the outer two bolts, and I wasn't able to reach across the frame and get the inner two bolts. So they're right next to one of the chisel shanks. Sorry about the lighting there, folks. I have that door open, and it's not about getting dusk out there. It's kind of sunset. So anyway, I'm going to give you a quick view of the position I'm in right now, and then I'm going to see if I can continue on removing bolts, and I'll give you an update after that. Here's one of the 4x4s. I used a cement block to add some length to it, and I drove that underneath the frame there, and that's where the jack is anchored under there. And then you can see how I put a bolt through one of those holes below the jack mechanism there, and since the bolt was a little small for the hole, I added a couple of oversized nuts that slid over that. And that way it took up some of that space. And then I also have a 4x4 right there that's sitting on top of a 6x6, and I drove that under there with a hammer so that it was wedged tight and wouldn't come out. And then, as you can see here, the wheel spins freely. So now I'm going to take my wrenches and try to get in there to this nut on this side, and there's one on the other side there, but it's kind of close in here, so my ratchet doesn't fit, ratchet and socket. So I'll have to reverse that by using the box wrench on the outside and the socket on the inside. And I already have these two loosened and ready to drive out. Now once that happens, I'll need to disconnect it here. This arm is strictly for holding it stationary in transport. And then this is the hydraulic cylinder that raises and lowers the unit. It mounts up there, and then the ram from the cylinder mounts down here, and basically it pushes this pivot point up and down, and which raises and lowers the implement. and there's one on that side over there that works on that wheel. And the hydraulic hoses are plumbed so that when you actuate your hydraulic lever on your tractor, it works both cylinders and raises and lowers your plow. So back to work, and more to come later. Video, but don't have a sophisticated camera crew that's helping me out here tonight. But right there you can see I've kind of driven that pin as far as I can drive it. I don't have a punch in hand here. I drove it that far, tapping it with a hammer. Got to get the rest of the way out of that hole. You can see all those bolts are free, and the piece is hanging down there that I'll be able to wheel that right out of there. I brought me some bigger blocking over here, and I'm hoping that using a combination maybe of those wood blocks, I can get the wheel up on top of those blocks, which then would maybe pivot that down to more of a, I don't know, like a teeter-totter, make it more centered so that I could, I guess the wheel's the heavy end is what I'm saying. If I can get the heavy end up, maybe I can take a little weight off of that cylinder pin and get that out of there. My good luck charm has been here helping me, keeping me safe. Either that or he's eating bugs, I don't know which, but I have a, whoops, there he goes, a friendly little toad. It's been under the plow with me, and we're both in one piece so far. So, all right, back on pause, and hopefully the next time I turn the camera on, you'll be able to see this situation is well in hand. We're back. So this was, as most things are, a little more challenging than first thought, but I now have the assembly in the back of the mule, and it's in my home garage where I can transfer it to another vehicle to go to a welding shop. I have to give a big thank you to my dear wife for the save. I needed someone on the other end of a 4x4 prying so that I could get that cylinder pin out, and I didn't have long enough arms to be hanging on that prying and still reach over and pull that pin. So thanks, dear, she came and gave me the boost I needed to pick that weight off of that, and then I was able to pull the pin out, and this dropped right on the ground. And then I wheeled it out to the mule out of the machine shed and found out how difficult that was to lift that whole thing as a unit onto the mule. So we went up to my other machine shed where I had air power, and I pulled out my 3/4 or half-inch drive impact wrench, air impact wrench, and loosened up took the lug bolts out. And then, because it's been on there probably for a great many years, I was unable to get the wheel off. So I brought it home to my home garage, and I did some cleaning on it and scraping on it, and you can see all the loose dirt. But I finally managed to get it freed from the hub there. And now I have a piece that I can pick up and carry to a shop. And you can see how bad this really is. It completely goes around to the other side. There's just only a few threads holding that together. Now this part here on either side goes inside of a bushing, and that was the bracket that actually bolts to the framework of the plow. And I just left those sit there on the plow. As is a good rule, you try to put parts where you can remember how to put them back together. So the one that went on this side I have on one position, and then the one that went on this side I set in another position, so that I'll remember how to reverse engineer this thing when it goes back together. Also, another good tip for anyone who has to take something apart: if you happen to have two of something, in this case the plow has two wheels on it, it's nice to have the other one that's still fully assembled. So if I do run into any trouble as to, say, which hole something is pinned in or something, I can always refer to the one that's still intact, and hopefully it will give me the clue I need to get the jigsaw puzzle put back together. for today.
So-
I don't know when this will get welded. I have to get it to someone, and when it does get welded, then I have to get it back on, and that may require the assistance of some extra hands too, as difficult as it was to get off. So for now, I'm just one hapless farmer, thanking you for watching and saying good night.